philosophes, in French, or in English, philosophers. These are the Enlightenment thinkers. Thomas Hobbes is one of the great philosophers of the Enlightenment. Hobbes believed people were naturally selfish, cruel, and greedy. He published a book called Leviathan, and if you don't know what a Leviathan is, it's basically a biblical dragon. It's pretty cool. It's in the book of Job. Anyway, in this book, he wrote that people are driven by a restless desire for power. Without laws, he said, people would always be in conflict. He said, without government, our lives would be nasty, brutish, and short. His idea was that governments were created to protect people from their own selfishness. You will need to remember these two main concepts about Thomas Hobbes. He wrote the book called The Leviathan, and he believed that the government was made to protect people. Later Enlightenment thinkers might not have agreed with Hobbes, but he was important because he was one of the first thinkers to apply reason to the problem of politics. His ideas may sound harsh, but it was based on his own observations of human nature and reasoning. Life back then was pretty tough. Think, pair, share. Hobbes' ideas are based on the idea that people are naturally selfish. Do you agree with this? Why or why not? Feel free to pause the video if you need to. What does Hobbes mean when he said, if there was no government, life would be nasty, brutish, and short? Do you agree with this idea? Be prepared to share your ideas with the class during our Zoom. Some key terms that you will need to know today. Social contract. A social contract is an agreement between people and their government in which people gave up some things in return for the benefit of having a government. So maybe you'll give up some of your money when you pay taxes so that the government can provide a police force in order to protect you. Natural rights. Rights that people have simply for being human. You're born with these rights. Bill of Rights. This is a list of basic rights a government must protect. A constitutional monarchy. A form of government in which the king's power is limited by a basic set of laws, or a constitution. Look at the definition for natural rights. You can go backwards if you like. Now, list as many rights as you can. List as many rights as you can think of for people that people have for just being human. John Locke, Social Contract and Natural Rights. He wrote the Two Treatises of Government in 1690. He believed the purpose of government was to protect people's natural rights. These natural rights are rights given to people by God, he said. He said the government should protect his life, liberty, and property against the injuries and attempts of other men. His idea was that the true basis of government was a social contract between people and their government. If the government didn't respect people's rights, the government could be overthrown. In exchange for protection, people gave government the power to rule on their behalf. We call this idea the consent of the governed. And this idea of the consent of the government and the idea that government could be overthrown if it failed to respect the people's rights had a wide influence and was ultimately echoed in the American Declaration of Independence and in the French Revolution as well. But we'll get to that later. Locke's ideas in England. Locke was in favor of constitutional monarchies. This meant the laws or constitution limited the power of the monarchs or kings, so the king didn't have full say as to what laws are made. In 1689, the English set down a new set of rules called the English Bill of Rights. This strengthened the power of the people and their representatives in Parliament and English Congress. The following ideas came from the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution's Bill of Rights, which most closely relates to the work of John Locke? A, speedy and public trial. B, innocent until proven guilty. C, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Or D, freedom of speech and the press. If you said C, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then you would be correct. John Locke was all about life, liberty, which is freedom, and everyone's right to pursue happiness. Brain check. Approved in 1689, a new set of rights for Parliament and the English people were set down in the A, Magna Carta, B, Orders of Parliament, C, Laws of William and Mary, or D, English Bill of Rights. If you said D, English Bill of Rights, you would be correct. Montesquieu, separation of powers. Like Locke, Montesquieu was concerned with how to protect liberty from a bad government. Now, remember, liberty means freedom. He wrote The Spirit of Laws. In this book, he described how governments should be organized. His bright idea was the separation of powers. By dividing different powers among more than one branch of government, no one group in the government could grow too powerful. Each branch of government checked the other branches. When powers were not separated in this way, Montesquieu warned liberty was soon lost. He said, when the legislative and executive powers are united in the same person, there can be no liberty. The lasting impact of his belief in the checks and balances is that he greatly influenced the men who wrote the United States Constitution. We now have a separate legislative, judicial, and executive branch. This is the Congress, the courts, and the president. Brain check. If Baron de Montesquieu were to visit the United States today, he might be most pleased to see A, the Bill of Rights, B, 3 branches of government, C, government-run tax system, or D, the Declaration of Independence. If you chose B, the 3 branches of government, you would be correct. Okay, let's see if you remember all that this lesson was about for the ticket out the door brain check. What is it called when the people give up certain powers for the return of the benefits of government? It is called a social contract. What are the rights that you have simply for being human? If you said natural rights, you would be correct. What did Locke say these natural rights included? Life, liberty, and property. When we split the powers of government among 3 branches, what is this called? Separation of powers. Who came up with the idea of the separation of powers? Montesquieu. If the government becomes corrupt, what does Locke say to do? If you said to overthrow the government, you would be correct. Okay, I hope you learned something, and I will see you next time.